Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep. Welcome to the daily quiz discussion for the 28th of August 2022. Before we begin, I would like to take this opportunity to ask all the viewers to join our Telegram channel for regular current affairs updates. Beginning with the first question of the day. It reads, consider the following statements about dugong. There are three question statements given here. The first one reads, it is a marine mammal. The second statement reads, it is endemic to India and is found in the Gulf of Mannar, Gulf of Kutch, Park Bay, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The third statement reads, dugongs are listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List of threatened species. Which of the above statements is or are correct? Please have a look at the options given. Let us understand the context. This article from today's The Indian Express takes note of a study which notes that dugongs may have become the first large vertebrate to go functionally extinct in China's coastal waters. Now, what do we mean by functional extinction? It means that even if some individuals of a particular species are alive, their numbers are too small to maintain a viable population. The article attributes this large decline in the number of dugongs along Chinese coast to the degradation of the seagrass environment as well as the death of dugongs due to entanglement in fishing nets. Coming back to the question, the first statement is correct. Dugongs are generally found in warm waters around the coast, with large numbers concentrated in wide and shallow protected bays. Consider the second statement. This statement is wrong. Note, although dugongs are found in India, they are not endemic to India alone. In fact, dugongs span the waters of some 40 countries and territories throughout the Indo-West Pacific. Consider the third statement. This is also wrong. Why? Because dugongs are not listed as critically endangered but as vulnerable. Also note, dugongs are listed in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of India. Since the question asks for the correct statements, the answer to this question would be option B, one only. Moving on to the second question. It reads, which of the following statements about National Investigation Agency are correct? There are three question statements given here. The first one reads, it is empowered to deal with the investigation of terror-related crimes across states without special permission from the states. The second statement reads, the agency is headquartered in New Delhi and has regional offices in all states of India. And the third statement reads, the agency is empowered to declare organizations as well as individuals as terrorists. Please have a look at the options given. What is the context? These articles from both the Indian Express as well as the PIB take note of the Union Home and Cooperation Minister Shri Amit Shah inaugurating the office of the National Investigation Agency at New Raipur in Chhattisgarh. Speaking at the inauguration event, the Honorable Union Home Minister noted the government's resolve to have offices of the NIA in all states before 2024. Note, the NIA is the Central Counter-Terrorism Law Enforcement Agency. It was created in 2008 after the Mumbai terror attack. It has a legislative backing in the form of the National Investigation Agency Act of 2008. The NIA functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The agency investigates terror offences, waging war against the country, and offences on nuclear facilities, among others. However, the NIA Amendment Act of 2019 allows the agency to investigate new offences such as human trafficking, counterfeit currency related offences, sale and manufacture of prohibited arms, offences under the Explosive Substances Act, as well as cyber terrorism. Also note, while the NIA can investigate terror cases across the country without having to get special permission from the states, the Amendment Act of 2019 allowed the NIA to investigate offences that are committed outside Indian territory subject to international treaties and domestic law of other nations. With this understanding, let's get back to the question. Consider the first statement. This statement is correct. Consider the second statement. This statement is wrong. While the agency is headquartered in New Delhi, it has only 8 regional offices across India and not in each state as mentioned in the question statement. Consider the third statement. This statement is correct. The National Investigation Agency is empowered to declare organizations as well as individuals as terrorists. This flows from two laws. One, the National Investigation Agency Act as well as the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Since the question asks for the correct statements, the answer to this question would be option C, 1 and 3 only. Moving on to the third question. It reads, consider the following statements about ethanol as an alternative fuel. There are three question statements given here. The first one reads, it is prepared by the fermentation of crops and plants that are rich in sugar or have the ability to be converted into cellulose and starch. The second statement reads, its calorific value is lower as compared to petrol. And the last statement reads, it is highly corrosive because of its ability to absorb water. Which of the above statements are correct? Please have a look at the options given. Now, what is the context? These articles from both the Hindu as well as the PIB take note of the statement of the Union Minister Nitin Gadkari. Speaking at the event, the Transport Minister took note of the energy shortage and oil import costs in India and has asked the agricultural sector to diversify into energy and power sectors. And in a specific recommendation, the minister suggested that the sugar industry should produce less sugar and more byproducts in the form of ethanol. Coming back to the question, consider the first statement. This statement is correct. Now, what are the major raw materials used in the production of ethanol? Note, sugarcane and corn are the most popular raw materials used for the production of ethanol. However, other agricultural products such as barley, wheat, can also be used in the production of ethanol. Now, let's understand the process. The process starts by grinding up these crops or raw materials. After this, the ground up substance is refined to get sugar, cellulose, or starch. Sugar from these plant material is converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide by the process of fermentation, and yeast is normally added to speed up the fermentation process. Once the ethanol is distilled and purified, it is ready for use. Consider the second statement. This statement is also correct. Now, what do we mean by calorific value? Calorific value is the amount of heat liberated when a unit mass of the fuel is completely burnt. Though ethanol has many advantages, one of the important drawbacks of ethanol is its lower calorific value as compared to petrol or gasoline. Another important or notable disadvantage of ethanol is its highly corrosive nature. Now, why is it so highly corrosive? Because ethanol absorbs water, and this presence of water in ethanol makes it highly corrosive. Hence, the third statement is also correct. Since the question asks for the correct statements, the answer to this question would be option D, 1, 2, and 3. Moving on to the fourth question. The question reads, which of the following statements is or are incorrect? Please note the question asks for the incorrect statements. With respect to appointment to the post of the Chief Justice of India, there are two question statements given here. The first one reads, a person being appointed as the Chief Justice of India would have a minimum tenure of 1 year at the helm of the judiciary. The second statement reads, a person being appointed as the Chief Justice of India should have compulsorily served as a judge in any of the high courts or the subordinate courts. Please have a look at the options. Now, what is the context? This article from today's The Indian Express takes note of Justice Uday Umesh Lalit taking oath as the 49th Chief Justice of India. He succeeds Justice N.V. Ramana, who retired just recently. The article takes note that the new CGI, Lalit, will have a very short tenure. Also, it takes note of the fact that Justice Lalit was elevated directly to the Supreme Court from the bar in August 2014. He is only the sixth lawyer to be so honored. With this understanding, let's get back to the question. From our discussion of the article, it becomes clear that both the statements are incorrect. Why? Because there is no minimum tenure for a person to be appointed as the Chief Justice of India. Also, it is not necessary that the person being appointed as the Chief Justice of India should have compulsorily served as a judge. Note, we have already discussed that Justice Lalit was a lawyer who was directly elevated to the post of a Supreme Court judge. Since the question asks for the incorrect statements, the answer to this question would be option C, both 1 and 2. Moving on to the last question of the day. This is a question from the UPSC 2019 prelims paper. The question reads, with reference to the Legislative Assembly of a state in India, consider the following statements. The first statement reads, the governor makes a customary address to members of the House at the commencement of the first session of the year. The second statement reads, when a state legislature does not have a rule on a particular matter, it follows the Lok Sabha rule on that matter. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Note, Article 176 bar 1 deals with the legislative powers of the governor. According to this, the governor can address the state legislature at the commencement of the first session after each general election and the first session of each year. Hence, the first statement is correct. Note Article 208 bar 1 notes that a house of the legislature of a state may make rules for regulating subject to the provisions of this constitution, its procedure and the conduct of its business. And Article 208 bar 3 notes that the governor, after consultation with the legislative assembly or the legislative council in states where they exist, may make rules as to the procedure with respect to communication between the two houses. Please note, there is no particular provision which deals with a scenario wherein a state legislature does not have a rule on a particular matter. Please note, according to the UPSC key released for this question, the second statement is also correct. Since the question asks for the correct statements, the answer to this question would be option C, both 1 and 2. Next, moving on to the fact of the day, Orion spacecraft. What is the context? This article from the Hindu takes note of the launch of the most powerful rocket ever built, the NASA's Space Launch System, or the SLS. The SLS will soon launch the Orion capsule or the Orion spacecraft. In this context, let us understand a few things about the Orion spacecraft. First one, it is being developed by NASA. It is touted as a powerful and advanced vehicle for a new era of human exploration beyond Earth's orbit. It is designed to take astronauts to deep space destinations, such as the Moon and Mars. Please note, it is officially called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle or the Orion MPCV. And it is a partially reusable crewed spacecraft. Hence, the Orion will serve as the exploration vehicle that will carry the crew to space. It will help sustain the crew during the space travel and also provide safe re-entry from deep space return velocities. This Orion spacecraft will be used in NASA's Artemis program. Note, the Artemis program is a human and robotic moon exploration program led by NASA. This is all we have for today's discussion. Thank you for being with us.